We made it to Friday, everybody. Here we are, another week almost in the books here on Morning Jox. Conrad Van Order, Damian Mitchell here with you on your Friday morning. Appreciate you making us a part of your day each and every morning right here on Jox. And it's a glorious day. I just, some days you wake up and I'll be honest, today is a day that I woke up and I said, you know what? It's just going to be a great day today. It just
That's what
feels
I'm
like
talking
it's going
about.
to be a great day. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that everything, we've talked about some things that have been bothering some people and certain fan bases across the state. And it's probably been a tough week for some people. It's been a little stressful, and I feel bad for him, and I really, really do. But I'm glad to know that on Friday, this is supposed to be a happy day for everyone as we get ready for another weekend. And it
Feel Good
seems
Friday.
like it feel good Friday. And it looks like everything's going to be okay,
There
Damien.
we go.
It looks like everything we've turned a corner and we're headed in the right
Well,
direction.
look at you just being a little beacon of light this morning on this Friday morning, Conrad. That's what I'm talking about, baby.
Yeah, I
You
guess
must got some good news or something.
there's no more panic on the plains, Damien. It was lifted yesterday. Not unlike a state of emergency across the state when we're used to bad weather. You had one of those in Lee County for the past few days, and it started over last weekend when you start losing recruits, and then you find out that the whole time Hugh Freeze was standing on the 18th hole, and you're wondering, man, can't make a phone call, can't text somebody out there, Hugh, can't send somebody a nice little video reminding them of why they want to be a part of the Auburn family. But it started with a kid from the NFL Academy from New Zealand. That's where they had to go. Auburn decided to go out of the country to fix their recruiting woes, Damien, and that seemed to be the spark, because now yesterday you got some big recruiting news if you were an Auburn football fan, and I think for a lot of people this one came completely out of left field. I'll be honest, I'd never heard of this kid until about 12 hours ago, give or take a few hours. But the big news, Auburn yesterday, they get a big win in recruiting, a much-needed win, something to boost morale, get the fan base back behind them. Forget about Hugh Freeze shooting a 78 on the golf course. Auburn's now 77th in recruiting. We can no longer joke about Hugh Freeze's golf game
Let's go.
being better than his recruiting ability, because Auburn has moved up to 77th in recruiting this year. But they pick up a commitment from four-star quarterback Peyton Falzone yesterday. Yeah, it's like calzone, but Falzone. And he flipped from Penn State. So he had been committed to the Penn State Nittany Lions since April, and he ultimately flips to Auburn yesterday. Falzone is the number 11 ranked quarterback in the 2026 class. He's 6'5", 205 pounds from Pennsylvania. And last year, his junior year of high school up there in Pennsylvania, he threw for over 2,100 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. And he ran for 700 yards in 8 additional touchdowns. So a little bit of a dual threat guy coming down from Pennsylvania. But this had a lot of Auburn people excited. If you win, and I know some people were sharing some of his high school tape last night online, and he can sling it. He can move, he can sling it. He's he's got a lot of tools, and certainly a guy that, behind Deuce Knight, who we all expect to be, maybe that quarterback of the future, depending on how things work with Jackson Arnold this year. It's good to, you need depth, right? And you need guys that you view as a potential starter in the future, but somebody that you can develop and feel like has a similar skill set, to where if you do need him in the future, you're not going to have to completely overhaul an offense. So, always good to get competition in that room, and Auburn does that yesterday. So they get a flip from four-star quarterback Peyton Falzone, who had been committed to Penn State. Doesn't that just make you feel all warm and fuzzy inside, Damien?
Yeah, anytime you can infiltrate into Big Ten country and also, frustrate James Franklin, I'm down for it.
It's been a bad week for Big Ten, flips to the SEC, because, Alabama, they flipped a kid from Illinois. They flipped another kid from Rutgers. Now Auburn's going after Penn State. The
Big Ten is under attack.
You said it, not me.
It just
But
means more.
it does just mean more. That's absolutely right, Damien. But as I said earlier, Auburn has now been bumped up to 77th in recruiting, according to 247 Sports. So they were in the 80s yesterday, 83, 84. Now they're up to 77. And if you look at On Three, they have actually bumped Auburn up to 59. But they have Auburn. They have a couple guys rated a little higher than 247. So that's what's going on the plains there. I know a lot of people, in all seriousness, I know a lot of people were very excited. It's good to, anytime you're in one of these stretches where it just feels like, man, nothing is going your way on the recruiting front. Those are the kinds of moves that, again, it's just good to remind yourself, hey, you're still in this thing. There's still a lot of time. I mean, we're talking about what, 6 months, 6+ months before these kids can actually officially sign a piece of paper and go to your university. There's a lot of time left. And so while, yeah, do I think it looks bad that, Hugh Freeze has played a ton of golf this month? Absolutely. But do I think that means that, Auburn's actually going to finish with a top 70 recruiting class? No, they're going to move up and it's going to be fine. So Auburn headed in the right direction with that news yesterday. And while it was a big day for Auburn, it was an even bigger day for the Alabama Crimson Tide. And I will just say this, based on what is expected to come out over the next week or so, this could be the start of a very, very impressive week for Alabama. As many as 5 5-star guys are... It feels like they are leaning towards Alabama. We will put it that way. But it started yesterday because you did add another 5-star to your recruiting class for 2026 in 5-star running back Xavier Crowell. He is from Jackson High School here in the state of Alabama. He's 6 foot, 215 pounds. It felt like he was going to lean towards Alabama for a while, but then when they did flip the running back from Illinois earlier in the week, Alabama had made it known they wanted 2 backs, but I mean, in today's day and age, right? You go and get 1 running back. There's a lot of guys that would say, oh, well, I'll go somewhere else where maybe I'm just guaranteed that I'll get some playing time. But Xavier Crowell, he's the number 2 running back in the 2026 class. He picks Alabama over Auburn, Texas, and Georgia. So Alabama gets their second 5-star of the 2026 class. He also, like Ryan Williams, he's reclassified. So he will be a junior this year, and this will be his, technically his final year of high school, but he's only a junior. So how about this? As a sophomore last year at Jackson, he had 168 carries for a little over 1,900 yards and 31 touchdowns. So he averaged over 10 yards a carry, and I'm just going to do some quick math. 2.5, 3 touchdowns a game.
As a sophomore.
As a sophomore.
Built different.
Pretty good.
Absolutely.
Pretty good. So that's a big get there for the Crimson Tide. And they also got another addition yesterday in 4-star tight end Mac Sutter. He is from Dunlap, Illinois. He's the number 6 tight end in this upcoming recruiting class. 6'6", 225 pounds. Got some good length to him. And he chose Alabama over Ohio State, Illinois, and those Ole Miss Rebels. So another big get there for the Alabama Crimson Tide is they have 2 big commitments yesterday. And if you remember, I know some people had been asking about this over the last couple of weeks, but if you remember Hayes Fawcett on social media, he's the one that does all the graphics for all the kids. He had posted a couple weeks ago I guess it's a GIF of Alabama, and it said ×3. And, when he posts those kinds of things, that's his way of saying, hey, this recruit's coming in. I'm getting some intel, but when it's official, I'll actually post it. And so he posted that a couple weeks ago, said there's 3 big commits coming to Alabama, or essentially alluding to that. And it turns out that Max Sutter was the first of those 3. So there's still 2 more that he expects at the least to come out here in the coming days. But Max Sutter was the first of those, so there are 2 remaining. But as I said yesterday, if you listen to our interview with Rodney Orr on 3-Man Front, there are as many as 4 other 5-star kids that could be committing to Alabama in the next couple of weeks. So we will wait and see.
I could have sworn that they told me that Kalen DeVore was going to have a struggle recruiting Alabama.
Oh yeah, can't do it.
I'm not.
Doesn't know
I'm
how
not
to recruit in the
anybody.
SEC. Yeah, can't do it.
But they said that he would struggle recruiting down here in the South. That's what they said. That I'm not I don't know who, but I'm pretty positive they told me that.
I just love that. I mean, I must see it, especially like during this time of year when recruiting's kind of the major thing going on in college football. The amount of times every day that, and I don't remember who it was that posted it, but it was some Auburn account that posted when Kalen DeBoer got hired. It was, Hugh Freeze is going to make that dude's head spin on the recruiting trail, and I see that post probably 5 times a day now, from people reposting it and going, interesting. When's this going to come to fruition? So, and Auburn's done a great job recruiting the last couple of years as well. But yeah, I certainly think any concerns that you may have had about Kalen DeBoer and his ability to recruit in the South, that's all out the window. He has proven that not only are they now getting some pretty good kids in the state of Alabama, which I know was a cause of concern last year, but they're continuing to dominate in other states as well. And Alabama looking really, really good right now. They are now up to the number 11 recruiting class, according to 247, and according to On3, they're number 8. And so, as you can kind of piece it together, if they get a couple of these commitments that they're expecting over the next couple of days, they're going to be right back there in the top 5. And it's going to be business as usual for Alabama. And finally, one little note here is, again, this isn't a kid that we're going to be talking about for years because he's in the 2028 recruiting class, but Alabama offers Graham Simpson a scholarship yesterday. The little brother of Ty Simpson.
Keep it in the family, baby.
That's right.
Roll Tide.
So I'm sure for some people, they're like, oh my God, we're going to already have another one of those kids. But because you've already made up in your mind that he's terrible, a lot of people have. But yeah, so keeping it in the family there, Graham Simpson, Ty's little brother, he gets offered by Alabama. But he's, that's a guy that we'll be talking about down the line if anything comes to fruition there. So that's your Alabama and Auburn recruiting update. Some good news for both of them on Friday. And that's how it should be on a Friday, Damian,
Exactly.
right? Everyone should be in a good mood. So if you're an Auburn fan, you got a new quarterback. I would assume this means that Duckworth, by the way, is going to South Carolina because he had said it was either Auburn or South Carolina. So I'm assuming that had maybe become known to Auburn or they just like this other kid more. But they get a flip from Falzone, the quarterback committed to Penn State. And then Alabama, they pick up a 5-star running back in Xavier Crowell and a 4-star tight end in Max Sutter last night. But it was a big night for a former Auburn basketball player. Maybe not so much for Alabama players, but for one Auburn basketball player, it was a big night last night. So you had round 2 of the NBA draft, and Johni Broome was off the board early. So if you missed it, we'll tell you where he lands, how we think he fits, and then what's happening with some of those Alabama players. Where are Mark Sears, Grant Nelson, and some of these other guys going to end up? We'll dive into all of that, tell you what we know next here on Morning Jox. 6:17. Welcome back in the Friday morning edition of Morning Jox here with Conrad and Damian, and you, of course, the wonderful listeners here of Jox. And we appreciate all of the interaction that y'all give us throughout the show, and some of you already sending some text in with your thoughts on the recruiting news for both Alabama and Auburn that we got yesterday. And 205-834-9450 is how you can send in some of your thoughts to the courtesy GMC text line. And so we have Fanboy, who he chimed in. He says, yeah, that Auburn Twitter post that Kalen DeBoer can't recruit is floating around every day. Makes me laugh every single time I see it. Somebody else says, LOL, is Conrad really bragging about Alabama's recruiting in June? Yes, and you would be too if Auburn was projected to land 5-star kids in the next week, but they're not. So please come at me with your enthusiasm when that happens. Don chimes in. He says, good morning, my friends. The panic on the plains is getting ready to be over. 2 commitments in 1 week. Another one is expected on Monday. I assume you're talking about Jaquez Wilkes. He says then 2 or 3 more in the following week, and we would be in the top 20 before the season even starts. But congratulations to Conrad and Alabama. Y'all are doing better in the state right now.
Why do you say congrats to you? What'd you do?
I just share the information.
Like, good job, Conrad.
I love to think that I have some sort of influence on who goes to Alabama, but ultimately I do not. If anything, I probably have more influence on why someone wouldn't want to go to Alabama. But that's okay. I'm self-aware. Let's see. Someone chimes in. They said, I heard Alabama is going to get Morgan and Griffin because they silently committed in early June. And that would be Cedarian Morgan and Xavier Griffin, 5-star wide receiver and linebacker. And yeah, everything I've heard seems that those guys are certainly going to be committing to Alabama here in the near future, but we will wait and see. And again, while it is exciting right now, it is always important throughout the caveat that these kids have 6 months to change their minds. So just because all these kids say they're going to go to Alabama right now, I do not think they will actually end up at Alabama. That would be foolish to think that, but that's just the world that we live in. And then we have someone, let's see. Someone says landing and keeping 5 stars are completely different, my friend. I absolutely agree with that. Absolutely agree with that. But better to have them in the first place than not at all. I guess how I would look at it.
That's the way to look at it.
Mike says, glad DeBoer got a tight end for Alabama. It's been years since Alabama had a good tight end that other teams even had to acknowledge on the field. Roll Tide. Yeah, I agree with that. Tight end's certainly been a bit of a down position for them the last few years, but some guys like to go to Texas. So, what you gonna do?
Who went to Texas, Conrad?
A couple guys actually.
You remember their names?
No, and most people don't either because they didn't do anything. I'm just kidding. Mari Nyblack, Jalil Billingsley, and there's one more.
Number 7. Well, he was 17 when he was at Alabama.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. He's dead to me anyway, so it doesn't matter. But continuing on with, if you want to keep sending in your texts, we're happy to read them on the recruiting front because it's fun when, things get stirred up at this time of year, right? You get Auburn, get a little chippy about it. And that's exactly how we want things to be. But you did have a big night in the NBA draft last night for one Auburn player in particular. Of course, that is Mr. Johni Broome.
Let's go.
The SEC Player of the Year, one of the best, I would say, behind Cooper Flagg, the best player we saw in college basketball all season this year. And he was a guy that we had thought maybe was going to find a way into the late first round throughout this process, but then it became apparent that he was going to be more of a middle second round guy. So it was good to see him off the board early in the second round because with the 35th overall pick last night, you had the Philadelphia 76ers select Johni Broome, so he will now go and play alongside Joel Embiid. Well, he'll be teammates with Joel Embiid. I don't know how often they'll share the court together, but they'll be on the same team, right?
Yeah, they will.
Yeah, so this good opportunity for Johni Broome to maybe get a little playing time early. Granted, it's just going to be very interesting to see, kind of how he works out in the NBA because, right, he's not big enough to be a traditional center in the NBA, so he's going to have to play more of that 4 spot. But just I don't know. I feel like body-wise and athleticism, he's kind of like in that in-between where It's just going to be interesting to see kind of how they're able to make him fit there. But being a second round pick, he's going to have to earn a roster spot. But I would imagine, you know, as good as he was at Auburn, I find it hard to believe that he's a guy that will not be ultimately on the 76ers roster to start this season.
Right, and we know the injury history with Joel Embiid and load management and things like that. So I think for the 76ers, because Johni Broome showed that he could stretch his game out just a little bit, not to say that he's, a deep threat from three, but he stretched it out far enough to now, if him and Joel Embiid so happen to be on the floor together, one, it's hopefully you don't play a team that's going to be running and gunning, because then you'll be kind of handicapped on that. But you have a bigger presence where Johni's athletic enough to kind of guard some of the wings a little bit. Now, it's a little bit different in the NBA because a lot of those guys have bags that he hadn't seen at the college level.
Yeah.
But I think for the 76ers, you kind of have a safe haven of, all right, say Joel does go down. The defensive presence that Johni Broome has, I'm not going to say he's going to lead the league in blocks or anything, but his athleticism is that of, I don't want to be disrespectful, but it's kind of like Zach Randolph back in the day, where he averaged a double-double for a long time in his career. His offensive game was a little bit more fluid than Johni's was, but I think Johni is kind of scrappy enough where he's going to dive after loose balls. He's going to go get those rebounds, like on the offensive side and the defensive side. Like if he can carve his way into almost a niche, he could find himself having a pretty long and successful career. Not to say that he's going to go out there and average, 20 and 12 every game, but, average about 8-9 points. If you can get it done defensively and be a defensive presence, I think he'll find a way to make himself a lot of money in the league.
Yeah, certainly so. And so I'm excited to see what Johni Broome looks like and what his NBA career ultimately seems to be. But no doubt, I mean, he's one of the best players we've had in the SEC here in recent memory, and certainly has a strong argument. I mean, according to Chuck, I mean, he is the best player in Auburn history in Charles Barkley's mind. So awesome to see Johni Broome make his dreams come true, become a member of the Philadelphia 76ers as the 35th overall pick. This is what ESPN's NBA draft expert Jeremy Wu, this is what he had to write about Johni Broome's fit in Philly. He says, quote, Philly was thought to be eyeing a big man at this spot, but grabbed Johni Broome, who's a highly productive college player who immediately deepens the Philadelphia bench. Broome is a terrific rebounder with a throwback game, but his limited athleticism and older age raised some questions about translation and projectable ceiling, but going to a team that might need him to play off the bench is a solid outcome for him. So seems like they feel this is a pretty solid fit for Johni Broome, and we will ultimately see how that plays out. But you did have a few other quickly notable SEC names that were drafted in the second round. You had Edu Thiero, he goes 36 right after Broome. You have Chaz Lanier from Tennessee. They all went back-to-back, actually. So you had 8 SEC players overall go the second day of the draft, including Jemai Mashak, who was the final pick of the draft to the Houston Rockets. And so maybe a little bit of surprise for some that you didn't have Mark Sears or Grant Nelson that were drafted ultimately. So they have a lot of these players. It's a lot like the NFL, right? The second the draft is over, you think of all these guys that are like, man, I remember that guy was pretty good in college, but they never signed a deal or, they didn't get drafted. And then bam, 15 minutes after the draft's over, they've signed a UDFA deal with, some team in the NFL. And that's exactly what they do in the NBA as well. So you got Mark Sears, who has signed a 2-way deal with the Milwaukee Bucks. And so this plays in, and honestly could end up being a good situation for him because Damian Lillard got hurt in the postseason and is expected to miss a significant chunk of next season. And that's honestly the only pure point guard that Milwaukee has on their roster. So Mark Sears could be finding himself in a situation where he actually has some meaningful playing time early next year just based on the injury to Damian Lillard and that opening up some playing time for him there. So he gets a 2-way deal with Milwaukee so he can ultimately spend time. And so what that means quickly is you can go back and forth from the NBA to the G League. So you can play up to 50 NBA games a year, but you can also go back and spend time in the developmental side of your game in the G League. So that's what Mark Sears got. And then you have what's called an Exhibit 10 deal, which that's essentially you get a training camp deal, right? Hey, come, work your butt off at training camp, play in the summer league for us, and we'll see if you're good enough to get a roster spot on the G League or the actual parent club. So that's what Mark Sears ends up with. He will be a member of the Milwaukee Bucks. And then you have Grant Nelson. So he signed a training camp deal. Again, this is not a two-way deal, but he signed a training camp deal with the Brooklyn Nets. And then you had Cliff Amore, who signed a training camp deal with the Toronto Raptors. So that's the fate of the three Alabama players who are going to try to continue their basketball careers. And then on the Auburn side, in addition to Johni Broome being drafted, you had Miles Kelly. He signs a two-way deal like Mark Sears with the Dallas Mavericks. So he gets to go play with Cooper Flagg. So that, hopefully will be a good opportunity for Miles. And then Dylan Cardwell. And this is awesome, man, because, again, we all know the story of Dylan and what he went through and just how much he means to that Auburn program and that Auburn family. And to see a guy like that and all of his hard work pay off and get an opportunity now with the Sacramento Kings to go on a training camp deal and compete for a spot, it's awesome. Now, who knows if it works out for him, but the fact that he has even gotten that opportunity, I think that probably means the world to him. And that's, again, whatever. You can think I hate everything Auburn because I'm an Alabama guy. I truly don't. But Dylan Cardwell is definitely one of those things that it's impossible not to root for that guy, impossible not to like him. And so very cool that he's going to get an opportunity with the Kings.
The man's just a hard worker.
Yep.
Like, one thing you got to worry about coaching him is effort and attitude. Like, he's going to give you everything he got. Now, if he just doesn't make the team, so be it. But he's going to give you 110% of everything Dylan Cardwell has. So good luck to him.
Yeah, I think every coach in the world would say, hey, give me a dozen Dylan Cardwells on my team, and we're going to be all right. We're going to figure some things out. So very cool. But, yeah, big day yesterday for Johni Broome as well as some of these other Alabama and Auburn guys as they will try to continue their professional careers at the next level. But overall, out of the NBA draft, you had 59 picks overall. 13 of them came from the SEC. So roughly 22% of the NBA draft came from the SEC, which was the dominant conference this year. So good week all around there for SEC basketball. Well, we've got some other things going on as well. We've got Major League Baseball. What's going on there? We've actually got some interesting news kind of all around the world of baseball. So I want to dive into some of that and also give you an update, the latest on conference realignment. No, it's not coming to the SEC, but it is happening in college football, and we'll give you the latest on that next here on Jox. 6:36. Welcome back into Morning Jox. Appreciate you making us a part of your Friday morning. Conrad and Damian here with you until 7 o'clock when we hand you off to McElroy and Kublick in the morning. Of course, they're with you from 7 to 10, then three-man front with you 10 to 2, and of course, Paul Feinbaum coming up after that. So I did tell you there is conference realignment going on or expected to become official, I guess, in the coming days in the world of college football. And no, it does not affect anybody here in the SEC. But if you are wondering what the latest is, yesterday it was announced that Texas State, we've told you about this a couple of weeks ago, if you remember, but Texas State is now amid the final steps of accepting the invitation into the Pac-12 because according to Pete Thamel and other sources, they have initiated the process of calling together a board meeting for Monday in which they will officially accept. If you remember, we told you their buyout doubles after July 1st if they want to leave the Sun Belt and head to the Pac-12. So they wanted to get it done before then. And Monday is June 30th. So no better day than that one, I would say, to formally accept. So Texas State expected they're going to leave the Sun Belt and become the 8th member of the Pac-12 conference, which would then mean Louisiana Tech will be leaving Conference USA and replacing Texas State in the Sun Belt. And the plan right now is it seems that Conference USA will stay at 10 schools for 2026. So remember, this is not going into effect this year, this college football season, but it'll be next year, so 2026. So Texas State going to be the next member of the Pac-12, and it should be official on Monday. I know that gets you excited, Damian.
Yeah.
You're a big Bobcats fan.
It's huge. The best Bobcat ever come through, TJ Finley. Yeah.
Yeah.
SEC ties. So I guess it just means more out west.
Sure. Yeah. It's no, hey, go Bobcats. I just didn't know if you needed to make an amendment and add them as the 11th team that you were considering.
Nah. They're fine.
Okay. I mean, I know they're not in the SEC, but we can make an exception.
No, but congratulations to the Pac-12. You're trying. And again, I will applaud you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you are at least trying to get back to some sort of relevancy. Now, are you going to get an automatic bid going to the playoffs after this? Maybe not.
No.
But people still love the Pac-12.
Yeah. Oh,
I think.
Pac-12 is great.
Yeah.
If that's your thing.
You got to think. John Mateer, he was a Pac-12 guy. Now he's at Oklahoma.
He was a Pac-2 guy.
He was.
It's different.
He got in the transitional phase.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But congratulations to the Pac-12. You're the steps you are taking show that you still care.
I was about to say, you said it best. They're trying.
Yes.
They were doing something. So good for the Pac-12, good for Texas State, and good for La Tech as they will now be moving on up to the Sun Belt Conference. All right, we told you there's some stuff going on around Major League Baseball as well, so I want to get to that quickly. But first off, last night, unfortunately, the Braves make it 2 in a row, but no, not the wins. That would be losses to the New York Mets. So they were undefeated against the Mets, 5-0, and now over the last 2 days, they are 0-2 against the Mets. So unfortunately, losing a little bit of that momentum that they had built up against New York, but the Mets win 4-0 last night. And the Mets pitcher Garrett Canning, it was actually really sad. He had to leave the game in the third inning. Definitely looked like an Achilles. You could tell the way that he came off the mound. It didn't look like that's going to be a good injury. So unfortunate for him, but the Mets still find a way to dominate the Braves. Just couldn't get anything going offensively. Braves had 3 hits last night. They were all singles, and they were all in different innings. So that's not going to win you a lot of baseball games. So unfortunately for Atlanta, they get shut out yet again last night, and they split the series with the Mets that they had started up 2-0. And now you have a 3-game set coming up against the Philadelphia Phillies. So the good news is if you do win a couple games in a row, you're going to keep seeing yourself climbing up those standings. And these are the teams that you want to have an opportunity to go up against. But certainly going to be tricky. So you've got that first game is tonight at 6:15. You can hear that here on Jox. Bryce Elder going to be on the bump for the Atlanta Braves tonight as they look to erase their 2-game winning streak and pick up some ground in the National League East. The good news, though, is after Philadelphia, you do get 9 games against the Angels, Orioles, and Athletics. And so those are certainly not the cream of the crop in Major League Baseball. But we have seen the Braves struggle with those teams this year, those caliber of teams this year. But certainly looking a little bit of optimism there on the horizon. But around the rest of the league, I just had to give this a shout out because I know there's a lot of people out there that maybe won't agree with this necessarily. But it was really cool yesterday. The Giants announced that they are going to build a statue of Barry Bonds outside of Oracle Park. Um,
Put him in the Hall of
about
Fame.
time. Yeah.
Put him in the Hall of Fame.
Thank you, Damien.
God.
Thank you. Yeah.
We don't care. Listen, you could say he put a stain on the game, but you can't tell the story about real great baseball without his name being brought up. Like, shout out to the Giants for saying, you know what? We gonna respect you because you made San Francisco Giants baseball watchable at a time where we love the long ball, and nobody did it better than Barry Bonds. And you can say Juice, cool. It is what it is. But, man, his career speaks for itself.
You can't tell the story of baseball without bringing up Barry Bonds and him being a big part of that, especially from, what he did in the 90s all the way through the 2000s. And, yeah, I'm with you. I mean, look, I think he should be in the Hall of Fame. I think it's a disgrace that he's not. But regardless of that, very cool that the Giants are going to build a Barry Bonds statue outside of Oracle Park. They had retired his jersey back in 2018, but now they're going to build a statue alongside Willie Mays, Willie McCovey, and some of the other Giants greats. So good for them. Think that's a classy move there, and certainly well-deserved for Mr. Bonds. You also had your top 2 vote getters in the All-Star game announced, and if you remember, the All-Star game is going to be in Atlanta this year. So I know a lot of people may be trying to get over there to Truist, and we're just about 2 weeks away from that now. But that's no surprise. Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani, the 2 top vote getters. So they officially become the first members of the All-Star team, and the other members will be announced early next week. But you did get the news that Ronald Acuna is going to participate in the Home Run Derby.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yeah, it is.
Put on a show for the hometown fans. I think that's a good call on his behalf there. So, yeah, should be an exciting time for All-Star Week. It'll be at the same time as Media Days. So I know we're already Landrum's trying to find a way to get over to Truist. So we'll see if that happens or not. But I know a lot of you probably trying to go over there. So hopefully it'll be a fun All-Star weekend in Atlanta coming up. So that's what's going on in Major League Baseball. But we did have some big recruiting news in both Alabama and Auburn's favor yesterday. We'll recap that for you if you're just now joining us, as well as get to some of your thoughts, some of you still chiming in on the courtesy GMC text line 205-834-9450. No more panic on the plains, and it's a Friday. It doesn't get better than this. Alabama and Auburn recruiting news. We'll tell you the latest next on Jox. 6:48. Welcome back in to Morning Jocks. Conrad Van Order, Damian Mitchell here alongside you on your Friday, hoping to just get you started on the right track for your Friday. Is hopefully going to be a great weekend for many of you around the state. Hopefully we're not going to get a ton of rain. I know there's a chance of a little bit of rain, but it looks like it's going to be nice and toasty. So I'm sure a lot of you looking to get out to the lake or whatever, some sort of body of water, and hopefully have a fantastic weekend. And hopefully that all started here on the Friday edition of Morning Jocks, because that's when you heard that the panic on the plains is over and Auburn's back. They are back in the mix on the recruiting trail. So if you're just now joining us, we did get some big recruiting news for Alabama and Auburn. So quickly, just a recap if you missed it. So Auburn yesterday, they flip four-star quarterback Peyton Falzone from Penn State to Auburn. He's the number 11 quarterback in the 2026 class. 6'5", 205 pounds, had been committed to Penn State for a couple of months. And last year, his junior year of high school, threw for over 2,100 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 4 picks, and added about 700 yards on the ground and 8 touchdowns. So a true dual threat there for Auburn in the quarterback room. And now, according to 247, Auburn up to 77th in recruiting, and they are 59th at On3 Sports for the 2026 class. So good news there for the Tigers. Now for Alabama, they pick up another 5-star yesterday in Xavier Crowell, the running back out of Jackson High School here in the state. He's the number 2 running back in the country this year. 6 foot, 215 pounds, picked Alabama over Texas, Auburn, and Georgia. He was a sophomore last year, so he'll be a junior this year, but he's already reclassified. So he will come out after his junior year. But he had 168 carries for over 1,900 yards and 31 touchdowns last year at Jackson. So a big piece there for Alabama, as they now have 2 running backs in the 2026 class. And you also had 4-star tight end Max Sutter, who he committed to Alabama yesterday as well. He's the number 6 tight end in the upcoming class out of Illinois, and he chose Alabama over Ohio State, Illinois, and Ole Miss. He is 6'6", 225. And so now with that, Alabama up to 11th in recruiting, according to 247, and they're 8th, according to On3. So certainly big day yesterday for both Alabama and Auburn. A lot of big names still expected to make their decisions known here in the next couple of weeks. And as always, as many of you have pointed out, and we try to tell you each and every day, all this stuff is great. Am I excited that Alabama is getting these guys? Yes. If you're Auburn, should you be excited that you just flipped a quarterback from Penn State? Absolutely. But these kids change their mind, and they change their minds pretty easily. So, just keep that in mind as you wait for the next 6 months that they have to stick out these commitments before they can actually sign a piece of paper and make it official there. But some of you chiming in on the text line, 205-834-9450, like Drake, he chimes in this morning. He says, y'all need to watch out for my Florida Gators on Cedarian Morgan from what I'm hearing. And yeah, Alabama, from what I've seen, Alabama seems to have a slight edge right now, but Florida and Auburn, it appears, are right there behind them. And so all of them really seem to be in the mix. And it's kind of a coin flip right now for Cedarian Morgan. So yeah, you are absolutely right about that one. Drake, we have, let's see. Oh, okay, they're not. Oh, there we go. Let's see. Marcus, he chimes in. He says, what about Chris Youngblood? I did not see Chris Youngblood get picked up or get any sort of a training camp deal or anything like that. So let me make sure that I didn't miss that. But no,
No, I hadn't seen anything either.
No, it doesn't look like that's going to be the case for him. So who knows? Maybe he is somebody that, throughout the summer he gets picked up for training camp or something, or maybe he goes and tries to play overseas somewhere. But yeah, nothing for Chris Youngblood. Yesterday, it was just Mark Sears, Grant Nelson, and Cliff Amore, the only Alabama players that are going to continue on in the association. Joseph chimes in. He says, with the new conference realignment in the Pac-12, are you taking the American Athletic Conference over the Pac-12? From a competitive standpoint, well, first off, you have more teams in the American Conference, so that certainly helps. You have the likes of, a Memphis, who we had thought maybe was going to be joining the Pac-12. That's an interesting conversation you could have there. Certainly, the Boise States of the world and stuff, that helps the Pac-12, but I think that's, a fairly interesting situation there with the Pac-12 and what's going on and how they're going to try to fill that out. And you would imagine get to 12, 14, or 16 teams in the future. Let's see. Some more people texting in about Sedarian Morgan. Yeah, no, and I mean, yeah, exactly. These guys are, they all, they go on these visits and they do an interview and it's, oh, what'd you think of Auburn? Oh, it's the best place ever. Then they go to Alabama the next weekend. Oh, what'd you think about Alabama? Oh, they really gave me a lot to think about. It'd be hard not to go to Alabama. They get caught up in the moment just like everyone else, and we all know it takes one quick phone call with, hey, how many zeros need to be added to it, and then it's done. That's what it is. So. But yeah, you're absolutely right that it will be before December that we get a lot of confirmation on this stuff, because that's when you actually can officially sign your intent to go to a particular program. Let's see. Damien, someone said, he said, can't call in, but Roll Tide. And he says, Damien, you can't call. You can't say Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
There it is.
They're my top 10, dog.
Yeah, they are. They certainly are. Do you have any update on that? Any
by the end of SEC Media Days, it will be narrowed down to 5.
By the end of Media Days. Okay, so Media Days is 17 days away. So we get through that. So okay, about 3 weeks from now,
I will have my top 5.
That would be a perfect Friday announcement. Maybe the Friday after Media Days.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so 3 weeks from today, go ahead and mark your calendars, put it in your agendas, your planners. Damien will be making his top 5?
Top
your
5.
Freeze 5.
If that's how you want to word it, absolutely. But there will be 5 schools.
All right. Well, we Deacon chimes in. He says, with Dreamland and a onesie still just in the top 10, you haven't cut him down? Sheesh. Well, Deacon, you got 3 weeks left to wait for Damien to make his decision. So while we eagerly await that, we will continue to keep you up to date on everything going on in the world of college football and on the recruiting trail. But that does it for a week this week for us. We're back on Monday, but right now you're going to get some McElroy and Kublik in the morning.